So distill what you just said down into one statement or one question.
How do we help adults move through their feelings about being in quarantine so they can hold space for students to heal?
We kind of have a representation of a quarantine pen here, you see? Like this is the closed off area, and Odie is in there, and she was banging on the gate, so I opened it, but she's not coming out. So maybe this is kind of what strikes me first, is that this is like a representation of, even though the gate's open, if your mind is still in the quarantine pen, you're not free to move out.
Yeah.
So we think we're trapped because of the physical quarantine, but maybe we also need to look at the mental emotional quarantine. Because that's where it all starts, right?
Yeah.
That's where, you know, people who've been in prison camp situations or the Holocaust, they've all written about that freedom doesn't live in your physical body, it lives in your mind and your emotional body. And there she's come out a little bit more, but her hind legs are still behind the bars. It's been an interesting journey with the wild Mustangs like Makamape here, because they had been free their whole lives out on a huge range. And then they were rounded up into a tiny pen and then pushed onto a trailer and unloaded at another tiny pen. And so all their body memory episodes of abuse and confinement happened when humans showed up and put them into tiny little quarantine pens. And so when they arrived here, and there's 30 acres and they have full permission whether they're ever touched or not, and Makamape so far does not want to be touched anywhere on his body, but he likes to touch your hand sometimes. Do you want to say hi? Can you have a greeting? No, he doesn't want to right now because he's busy. So sometimes when I arrive, he'll walk up to me and he'll wait for me to extend my hand and greet him, or he likes to greet me. And then sometimes if we're standing still, he might walk by us and brush against us. So he wants to feel our body, but with his body, but never to have us reach out and touch his body. The times that humans have reached out and touched him have been to put a halter on him, which they then couldn't get off. So he was stuck with it for a month and it was too small. So it was very uncomfortable, if not painful. And then the second time he was touched was to be castrated, which he fought for 2 days. And they drugged him with enough drugs to kill a normal horse and he still wouldn't go down. So that, again, high trauma. But my point about him is he came here. And so the quarantine pen for him became the point of privilege and a way that he saw that, wow, if you go in there and you connect with the humans, you can have alfalfa and you can have extra grooming and scratches, none of which he wanted, but the space in his mind became linked with a positive thing, whereas before it had all been negative. So I guess that's part of the rewiring that needs to take place, that maybe the home and the other areas that you've been restricted to now have taken on a negative prisoner aspect in your mind body, and how can you open to shifting the reality around that? Because now Macaw asks to come into the quarantine pen, and he'll stand there and he'll try to get ahead of the other horses, or, you know, if I ask him to follow me, like right now, Big Mama, who's the boss ranking, is standing closest to the pen, so I don't think he'll come. Macaw, do you want to try to get in the pen? Do you want to try? Over this way? Do you want to try? Come. Come. So he's thinking about it. No, he's real happy where he is. And like I said, if he moves and starts to follow me, there's a high likelihood that she's going to block him anyway. So he would have to be a bit crafty about that. But yeah, both him and Cobra, again, opposite him, another wild Mustang who only had bad things happen in the little pens. They have completely transformed their relationship and their visceral experience of this tiny space, from a place of entrapment and abuse and loss of freedom to a place of privilege and good stuff. So I guess that's something we can think about, because it's our choice, right? Yeah. That's it. That's what makes all the difference. If someone says to you, you must stay in here and you cannot come out, and then once I get you in here, I can do whatever I want to you, that is completely different to you choosing to create a cozy space or a space of privilege or a space of good things.
Because you're basically being in charge of rewriting your own story instead of somebody writing it for you. You're choosing how to redefine that space for yourself. So the horses had the experience of going back in to the pen and having a different experience, but it was their choice to come back in. And,
bingo.
And then they could rewrite their experience, which once again gives them choice and power.
Yeah. And if I had forced them to come in here to try and make them get over their trauma or make them create a new story, there would have been no rewiring happening. There would have only been resistance and further trauma.
So it takes as long as it takes, but you're really in charge of when you do your own work.
Absolutely. And this would be a great place to segue into the video that we have of Sione, who is the most fearful of the wild Mustangs. And the day she chose for the first time to come into this space by herself and just in like one fell swoop rewrite that story.
Yeah. And how long would you, just for people listening, has it taken for Macaw and Cobra and Sione to rewrite these experiences?
Macaw was the fastest. And I think he started, I mean, for him, it was a matter of, let me even think. I know it was months. So yeah, maybe 3 or 4 months for him. He was very fast. He was also the youngest, okay. Right? So the younger you are, the more malleable you can change faster, let things go faster, usually. And then the second one was Kalia. So Kalia, there she is all the way out in the field. Let's go join her. Now I'm going to close this so that we don't get like 4 horses trapped in here while we're away. So we'll talk about Kalia. It's interesting. So let's just take note that every other horse in the herd, all 7 of them are here. And Kalia has gone off to the far end of the field by herself. And now we are going to talk to her. So Kalia's story is very interesting because she had the same experiences as Maka and Sione, but she was their herd leader. And so through the initial cull from the wildlands, to the transfer to the first rescue, to the second separation and transfer to the second rescue, she kept her band of 3 together. She refused to let anyone be separated from her. And she did all this while 9 months pregnant. So she, even though she went through the same experiences as the others of the entrapment and, you know, abusive trauma, she never gave her power away. And there was never a point where you looked at her or perceived her as a victim. So what does she have to show and share with us about that psychological, emotional piece, that your physical reality is one thing and your emotional, psychological reality can be completely another?
Yes. She's also being pregnant and leader. I mean, she's fierce to protect her foal. She's fierce as a leader. She didn't give up because she was fighting for her child or her foal as well as her herd. So that's a really interesting way to look at leadership, where everyone counts. And
yeah,
and you know, her own life was at risk as well, but she kept everyone together.
Yes. And Sione was pregnant at the time as well. So there was, even though there was 3 horses, there was 5.
Yeah. Didn't she kick down boards to get to her herd at one point? When
yeah. So this was me being, oh, she's going down to roll. I was like, I'll follow you. No, maybe I'll let you roll by yourself. I knew that she was meant to be with me, but I already had 5 horses, and I didn't, like, they were stretching me financially to my capacity. So I said to her, oh, there's your daughter. I did not know she was down here. I said to her, I can take you and your daughter, your baby, but there's no way I can take 5 more horses on top of the 5 that I already have on land that is already quite full and, you know, financially like double my costs. I said, I just can't do it, but I can take you and your daughter. So I sent a trailer for them. And actually I never went because I think in my gut, I knew that what I was asking her to do was ridiculous. Like, I already have a herd of family members. So I know how important family is and how they don't want to be separated. So me asking her to separate, I think obviously deep in myself, I knew that was ridiculous. So anyway, no one used any whips or tools or anything. They just walked towards her, asking her to get on the trailer. And all the horses got on the trailer. We were like, no, we're not taking all of you. We're just taking some of you, or just you. And when she realized that they were trying to separate them, those arena panels that we called the quarantine pen, she climbed over those, and then she went right through a solid wood fence at 9 months pregnant, sending a very clear message that you will never separate me. Like, you want to separate me, you're going to have to kill me first. And so it was an extremely powerful, absolutely no questions asked display of where she stood on the issue.
And that it's quite powerful that her love for her herd was more important than her own life if it meant that she could not be with her herd.
Yes. Yeah.
And to make that statement and really make it very clear.
Yeah, exactly. And even what she's doing now is a demonstration of how far she's come in terms of her own trauma, right?
Yeah.
That she's just put herself in the most vulnerable position a horse can put themselves in. With me standing, on the ground. And her daughter came, but then her daughter left. There she is at the barn. And she stayed down on the ground with just the human nearby.
And how close are you? Just like an estimate.
I am 5 feet.
That's amazing. That's huge growth.
Yeah. So again, we're back to the rewriting of the story. And lots of yawns and releases. So I get what I'm getting from her right now is that this rewriting of the story doesn't stop. It just goes to new levels and new freedoms. Like that's what we're here for. We're here to take this. Yeah, we're here to take the story on planet Earth. And we're here, each of us. And there's the release.
Yeah.
Real release. We're here to rewrite the story to the one of such, there's big yawn, such complete freedom and safety. And we don't stop. It ain't over till it's over. And maybe it's never over. Maybe that's our lifetime journey, is to just keep rewriting those stories for each of us. And it's interesting, I'm moved to speak about her color, because before I got her for 2 years, I would show up at the barn, I would walk into that barn area and I would hear there's a black horse missing. And I'd be like, there's too many horses already, forget it. Next day, arrive at the barn, get out of my truck, walk into the barn, there's a black horse missing. And so I said to them, I said, okay, you know what? How about this? How about we get our own land that's big enough and then we'll get the black horse? How about that? But for 2 years, I just kept hearing there's a black horse missing, there's a black horse missing. And then a friend posted her photo on Facebook, so it came up in my feed. And it was blurry and in the middle of winter, but the energetics were, I knew, no, it's the black horse. So then that's my invitation from the universe. Will you expand or will you stay small? Will you look at all of your constraints, financial, environmental, emotional, physical, and will you say, no, I have to stay this size because I can't possibly expand to where the universe is calling me? Or do you, in complete faith and trust, say, all right, I'm going to be like a jump off the cliff and trust that my wings are going to unfurl and they're going to work. She wants to talk to me about her color and all the things that her color represents. And it was interesting. She said, I am not these things because I am black. She said, because I am these things, I chose to be black. Right? And it was, you think about black, right? Black is where all the colors coalesce into one. Every single color.
The womb is dark and black inside. Creating chaos gives birth.
Exactly. There's so many, powerful metaphors and realities associated with being black. And I was very moved by what she said, that I'm not these things because I'm black. Because I am these things, I chose to be black. And and so that's when she asked for a name that had Kali in it. because Kali is the goddess of destruction and rebirth. And we're back to stories, right? Sometimes you can't create a new story until the story that's holding you back and limiting you is destroyed.
And it's funny because Kulit sent me a picture of her because I asked, and I did a drawing of her, just, you know, just energy of her. And then I went, wow. And then right next to it, I did a drawing that was more anatomically spent hours, you know, copying the photo I had and the proportions. And it was on the same, it was a diptych, both of these versions of her. And I didn't know the original meaning of her name. And then when Gulit told me, I was like, because I've never drawn two things on the same paper of the same thing ever in my entire life. And then when she told me, I was like, of course, Kalia, of course. And it was the energy of both was so different, and yet it's the same. So
yeah,
and I love that she's scratching and
yes, she's left her herd and her family, and she's come off to create her own little spa environment by herself.
Self-care.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's not concerned that anybody comes with her or that anybody approves of her. She's like, this is what my body needs, and I am going to take care of myself and not be afraid.
What a concept for a leader. Self-care and do your work, be fully present with your heart and your mind, and also take the time to nourish your own body, your own energy, because that's what makes you able to show up.
Yes. Yeah.
Not sacrifice and not give up what is necessary for yourself.
Yeah. Absolutely. So what's happening with the herd? Well, Odie's down here taking a drink, but everybody else, including Kalia's daughter, is still back at the barn. Oh, there's Kalia's daughter. I can see. I don't know if you can see her. She's just peeking through the trees at the far end.
I can't.
Yeah, no, she's well hidden.
Yes.
So she's got her own little magic corner here. Well, I think that's a whole lot of messages, isn't it?
Wow, it's beautiful. Thank you, Kalia.